Thank you, Chairman Owens and Ranking Member Scott, and thank you, members of the subcommittee, for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Cherise Trump. I'm the Executive Director of Speech First, a free speech advocacy organization that has successfully sued colleges over their anti-speech policies and won. Over the past year alone, I have visited dozens of campuses and spoken with thousands of students. Those students face an ever-growing, ever-present threat on campuses. That is, administrators working to chill and silence their speech. Our universities are failing miserably at the one thing they are being paid exorbitant amounts to do. They are failing to educate students. Last week, I was on North Carolina, one of North Carolina's university campuses, and there was a room of about 50 students, and I asked them to raise their hand if they had read the Constitution, and only 5 raised their hands. So this is something that is evident that the universities are failing our students. I'll quickly mention 2 policies that are being used to target and squash unpopular speech on campuses. First are harassment policies. We all know that Title IX regulates discrimination on the basis of sex in education. But what you may not realize is that there's no limit to how many harassment policies and discrimination policies can actually exist on campus. Oftentimes, universities have multiple, and they take it upon themselves to adopt even broader definitions of harassment and discrimination. These policies completely disregard the federal guidelines that are meant to strike a balance between protecting students' First Amendment rights while also protecting students. For example, we have seen universities define harassment as offensive speech, something that threatens someone's mental health, statements that may be humiliating, or microaggressions. These are all constitutionally protected forms of speech. So I ask you, can you define what threatens someone's mental health? Can you provide an objective standard for evaluating whether a statement is humiliating? Can you actually define microaggression? Students can't either. How can one expect to enforce a policy that uses such subjective and overbroad terms? Secondly, and perhaps even more nefarious, are bias reporting systems. Bias reporting systems are anonymous reporting systems that solicit reports from students on one another for incidents of bias. Bias can be defined as anything the university wants. Oftentimes, they define a bias incident as statements that are unfair or prejudicial, jokes, stereotyping, microaggressions, not using gender-inclusive language. In some cases, even offending someone's political affiliation is a reportable offense. Once a student is reported, they often do not get to face their accuser. They are asked to meet with a member of the administration, which can often lead to writing a letter of apology and sensitivity training. Government agencies soliciting anonymous reports from citizens that lead to re-education. What does this sound like? In 2022, Speech First surveyed 821 public and private universities and found that 56% had bias reporting systems in place. This is a 200% increase over the last 5 years. Our lawsuits at Speech First challenge university policies that target, investigate, and discipline students for their constitutionally protected speech. The First Amendment should be the guide that universities use when deciding whether and how to regulate student speech, but it isn't. Universities instead try to find ways to target and suppress uncomfortable speech. Their stated goals are diversity, inclusion, safety, and other euphemisms for discrimination, and it seems the term diversity applies to everything except for diversity of thought. Currently, diversity, equity, and inclusion permeates every aspect of the college experience. In 2022, Speech First obtained freshman orientation materials from almost every major state university. Only 1/3 of the universities even mentioned free speech or viewpoint diversity in their orientation materials. This emphasis on DEI in freshman orientations is not an oversight. It is intentional, and it is clearly designed to create insecurities where there were none before. Take, for example, the definition of racism that administrators at UNLV gave to students. Racism, they say, is, quote, a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people, end quote. So this is something that is very clear to what the universities are prioritizing. In short, students are operating in a surveillance-like state. They are actively censoring themselves out of fear of espousing the wrong opinions. They don't know what could be reported for, so they choose to stay silent. Thankfully, the law's on our side. Speech First is won in the 5th, 6th, and 11th circuits on the issue of bias reporting systems, and in the 5th and 11th circuits on harassment policies. All of the policies I've mentioned today are designed to create an environment of control, not safety. I can give you plenty of examples of students who currently feel unsafe on college campuses because of these anti-speech and discriminatory environments that are encouraged by the policies that I outlined today. Keep in mind, these are the same students who will be future leaders, litigators, judges, national security advisors, tech CEOs, and bankers. What outlooks and habits are they developing on college campuses that they will bring with them into the professional world? Will we end up with leaders who are either disconcertingly compliant and avoid confrontation, or leaders who have totalitarian penchants encouraged by all those who agree with them? Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions.